Good morning. Here in beautiful St. Petersburg, I've got Jax the Wonder Dog with me. Got some amazing coffee from Hog Batch Brewing and a beautiful morning on the water. I'll give you a quick little view just so you can see what we're looking at here. Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. So, quiet Sunday morning, I woke up a little early. Thought it'd be fun to shoot a little live out here. Come rap with you a little bit. Morning, Nora. The topic today is, well, it's really delving into this idea that our thoughts create our reality. And something this week really drove that home for me, and I wanted to share. And for those that concept even is sort of, what is he talking about? Let me spend a minute on that. We have this idea that there's an objective reality. Here's what's going on. Here's what that guy's doing. Here's even what they're saying. And I assure you that all circumstances are neutral, meaning we bring to them or project on them the meaning we create. Nothing in the world is inherently anything. Nobody's inherently polite. Nobody's inherently rude. Nothing's inherently funny. Nothing's inherently sad. It's like we're all watching the same movie, but some of us think it's a comedy, some think it's a tragedy, some think it's a drama, action film. And I am always finding places in my life where I forget that that's true. And before I give you the example, I want to spend just a moment talking about why I think this is important. You see, I create a distinction between circumstances of life and our experience of life. Circumstances of life are anything outside of us, and our experience of life is what we feel inside. So if I describe myself as happy or sad or pissed off or even energized, that's inside of me. And then I can describe physical reality. I'm in St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm sitting here on a porch. I have Jax the Wonder Dog on my lap. The ocean's kind of movie today. Those are circumstances. I could be having any experience here. I could be sad. I could be happy. I could be depressed. I could be joyful. I could be at peace. I could be hopeful. Anything's possible if I come from the assumption, the belief that I project onto circumstances my experience. Circumstances don't create my experience. And this is something that, well, some people flat out say, no, that's not true. Circumstances are what they are. I think for most of us, we can agree that in most cases, we create our experience of a circumstance, but we all have exceptions. So this gets me to the point of what I wanted to share. This week, I don't remember what day it was. It might have been Tuesday, it might have been Wednesday. I was convinced that my beautiful, amazing, powerful wife, Louisa, was upset with me, was mad at me, was in a bad mood about me. Hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't done anything wrong. I just, thought it was sort of one of those days where I had done something and she was pissed off at me. And all day long, several times throughout the day, this truth that she was mad at me was proven. Evidence kept appearing. I kept finding evidence that validated what I was thinking. She's mad at me. She's disappointed in me, pissed off at me, what have you. Now, one thing to point out here real quickly is I spend a lot of time creating myself. I've been working with Steve Hardison for a year and a half. Before that, I've had the privilege to work with Michael Neal. I spent about a year and a half working with Rich Litvin. I've had other incredible coaches and teachers and guides. So I'm not new to this stuff. And I'm sharing that not to brag, but hopefully so that people watching this could give themselves a little grace, right? Because we all experience this stuff. And I love sharing with my clients, yeah, that happens to me too. More than you think. So, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever it is, all day long, Louisa's mad at me. And I'm catching her sort of sarcastic little remarks. Put an asterisk there. Her attitude, the kind of demeanor, you know, her energy. Oh, that's that negative energy I'm getting from her. And her disapproval. And my favorite example from the whole day was at some point she was going to make some tea and she made the comment, we don't have any of the tea that I like. See, she likes this like probiotic stuff and whatever. She loves her tea. And I had this crazy idea I was going to drink less caffeine this year. I don't drink that much, but I had this crazy idea I was going to cut out caffeine. So I bought a bunch of tea. We were at Target last weekend. And I just grabbed some teas. I was ready to get home, and we didn't get her tea. I don't know if they had her tea there. So Tuesday, she's grousing at me, bitching and moaning, asterisk. We didn't get my tea last Sunday. I was convinced she said, well, you know, you didn't get the tea I liked. So much so that I looked at my calendar. This affected me so much, so I looked at my calendar, had a little bit of time. I said, oh, I'm gonna go to the store. So I went to the store and bought her some more tea. Went out and drove and bought her some tea. Now, that's a lovely thing to do, right? I'm a great guy. But let's be clear, I wasn't doing it from a very peaceful, neutral, to show love place. Of course I was showing love, but I was doing it because she was mad at me and because I'd gotten it wrong on Sunday and she was pissed and I had to fix the problem. That's the who I was being. And there were a couple other incidences. I'm chuckling because the story gets funny really quick. And there were a couple other things throughout the day, and finally we're at the end of the day, and Louisa wanders out of her office and says something like, hey, anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to share? Nope. I'm good. That was my response. See, I didn't want to piss her off anymore. This is a funny story. Well, it just seems like, this is her again, it just seems like, you know, something's going on, blah, blah, blah. And finally I said, well, listen, I know you've been mad at me all day. So I've just been trying to not step on any landmines, trying not to get in any more trouble, trying not to make things worse. And she just looks at me. She's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, you know, it's obviously something's going on. She goes, what are you talking about? I'm not mad at you. And there was like this little tiny little flash of like, oh shit, I got suckered here, didn't I? Somewhere along the way, the thoughts in my head started creating her as mad at me, and I bought it. I bought the story. Sort of like a bass with some power bait, right? Like it's just too good. Man, our ego just wants to latch on to something like that. And I caught a glimpse of it, but I still wasn't. I still was pretty sure she was mad at me, and I was starting to tell the story. Well, she's just saying this, and even this is proof of it. But I'm like, oh shit, this is me, isn't it? Right? Because as I said before, we project onto circumstances our experience. I know that intellectually. I know that. But sometimes I forget, or I get fooled, or the illusion is so real. But I know that it is my truth. It is the truth. Right? Whenever I'm in a circumstance and I have an experience that's negative, I know I'm creating it. Except when I don't. Like Tuesday. But there was this very surreal moment of, oh shit, I'm in the Matrix, aren't I? Or something like that. So I recused myself. I said, I know what's going on here. And it was sort of like I wanted to stay in this place of she's mad at me. I was so convinced of it. But like part of Townsend's like, let's stay there and be the being she's mad at you. And there's another part of me kind of grabbed me by the ear. No, dumbass, come on, let's go over here and do the work we need to do. So I went over and moved myself away physically, sat down in my little chair, and there's work I do around this. There's a process I have. There's tools that I have. I've invested years and lots of money to learn what to do. And I did it. I forced myself to do it. And it was like, the scene in Mission Impossible when they're like pulling off the mask and you're like, oh, it's Tom Cruise. Yeah, I was like, ah. And it was like this whole day that I'd watched this movie called Louisa's Mad at Me. It was like somebody just took the whole filter off of that. And I was like, oh, shit. And I started just laughing at myself. And I sort of a mix of like relief that I wasn't in trouble anymore, that nobody was mad at me, even though they never were. A little bit of embarrassment that I had been in this place all day. So all sorts of funny stuff going on. And I kind of wandered my way back in the kitchen. She said, what was going on? I said, oh, you're going to love this. I said, all day I was convinced you were mad at me, and I kept finding evidence of it. She goes, what do you mean? I said, well, like the tea. You told me we bought the wrong tea. It was my fault. And I was laughing because I knew it wasn't her. And she's like, yeah, I just was making the comment, we need to get the tea that I like. And I was like, yeah, I know. But I created that as another, bit of evidence. The prosecutor got up there. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, here we have in front of you irrefutable evidence that Luis is pissed at Townsend. And boy, I found it. And I'm sharing this because it's funny. And I'm sharing this because, yeah, that happens to me too. Hey, Steve Hardison. Loving you, brother. So I'm sharing it as a reminder to everybody that whatever you see out there, you're creating it. Even when you think you're not. Even when you're fooled. Even when the Matrix has you. And sometimes you can work your way out of it. Sometimes you just got to ride your way through it. I think it's Michael Neal who has an expression, something like, even when you can't wake up from the dream, you can still be aware that you're dreaming. And sometimes that's the best we can do. We can't get out of it. We're just so convinced this is happening to us, and they're doing this, and they're doing that, and literally, we're not receiving anything. We're projecting it all out there. Hey, Mom. My mom's watching this. I didn't know my mom watched lives. So that's, man, my mom's amazing. I could do a whole live on my mom. How much she's taught me, how incredible she is, how generous she is, how loving she is. Pretty special lady, that Vera Wardlaw. But yeah, as you go about your day, play a little game, or your week, play a little game. Anytime you feel a little bit of, I call it activation, right? Frustration, anxiety, stress, judgment, anything, right? I call it activation to kind of give it a category. Anytime you feel that, know that it's you doing it. Not to blame yourself or feel bad. That's kind of how powerful we are. And if you blame yourself for it, well, you'll want to avoid it. But what if you knew that every single negative experience in your life was created as such by you? Again, not like it's a character flaw or there's a problem with you, but because and on account of acknowledging that returns the power to do something about it back to you, right? If that's pissing me off, I'm pointing out there, if that's pissing me off, well, I need that to go away, or that to be different, or that to stop doing what it's doing. But if it's me creating it, well, I don't need to worry about that. I got all the power. I just shift my thinking. Possibly easier said than done, maybe easier done than said. That's a topic for another day. But this is just a, oh my little Jack's getting a little restless here. What's the matter? And this is his favorite spot in the world here. So yeah, those are my thoughts. What did somebody say? Sweet Sunday? Somebody had a really funny comment there. It was cool. But yeah, thought this would be a fun little thing to chat about this morning. As you go about your day, watch how you're projecting everything everywhere, and see if in the moment, if you're experiencing a projection you don't like, maybe you can project something different, right? Sort of like when you're dreaming, having a bad dream, you can go, let me see if I can work with this dream. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just got to ride it out, but maybe I can turn that monster into bunny rabbit or something. I don't know. Have an amazing Sunday, everybody.